Today we're going to talk about how to sketch a rough graph of a polynomial function. And we're going to use some of the key features that we've been talking about the last couple days. And keep in mind this is a rough graph, so I'm looking mostly at your intercepts and which direction, shouldn't say which direction, how your end behavior is working out. So, steps here. Identify the zeros or solutions for each factor. Notice that the problem we're giving you off to the right is actually in factored form. So you don't have to do any work here. We just need to figure out our zeros. So really what we're doing is setting this equal to 0 and solving, or just taking the opposite of this. Okay, so if I have a minus 3 in my parentheses, my 0 is positive 3. If I have a positive 1, my 0 is going to be negative 1. What you really need to look at here is also the multiplicity. Okay, so remember multiplicity comes from an exponent. So for the x minus 3, my multiplicity is going to be 2. My exponent is 2. And then for negative 1, my multiplicity is going to be 3 because my exponent is 3. And that is going to be kind of where you go from there. The reason we do this is it tells us if our graph is going to bounce off of the graph at that point or if it's going to pass through. So if this is even, okay, 2 is even, and I'm looking at the multiplicity, not the number, that means this one will bounce. Okay, and then 3 is odd, so that means it will go through or it'll pass through. Okay, a couple other things you want to do. You want to check for the multiplicities of the factor. The sum of the multiplicities for all the factors. So I'm going to add all of my multiplicities here. So 2 plus 3 gives me 5. That's the way to do this. So I get 5 here. And then I'm also going to identify whether the leading coefficient is positive or negative. And this one is negative. Try this differently. Okay, so so far we've gotten our zeros. So take the opposite of those that are in our parentheses. Those are our zeros. And then we did our multiplicities, which are our exponents. And then if it's even, it bounces. If it's odd, it passes. Then we add our multiplicities together, and we have 5. And we identify our leading coefficient. Okay. If your leading coefficient is positive, the right side goes up. If it's negative, the right side goes down. And then after that, you are going to sketch your graph. And remember when we talked about key features, I kind of told you how many directions your graph goes, and I'll show you that in a second, based on your degree. Okay, so once we have all this information on the right side, we can go ahead and sketch a graph. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit, just so we can see everything. So on here, we are going to mark our zeros here, which are on our x-axis. So I have 3 and negative 1. Okay, and then I'm going to look at my leading coefficient because that tells me that somewhere over here, my right side needs to be going down. And then if I look at my multiplicities, I'm going to look here, since it's odd, that means somewhere over here, my left side will be going up. Okay, so if I have an odd multiplicity or odd degree, that means my directions are going opposite of each other. After that, I'm just going to start, and you can start on the right side or the left side, whatever works for you. I start on the right side. I'm not sure why. Always have. And I'm going to look at my 3, because 3 is the first 0 I'm going to reach on the right side, and it's an even multiplicity. So what it means when it bounces is that my graph is going to hit that 3 and come back down. Okay. Now, my next 0 is at negative 1. So my graph is going to go through that negative 1 and then continue on forever. Okay, so I'm going to erase this extra little arrow here. Okay, so that's kind of what my graph is going to look like there. It's off a little bit, but it's close enough. What I'm looking for is that you know that we are bouncing off the 3, passing through the negative 1, and that my end behavior is right. Okay, let's go ahead and try another one. Actually, we're going to match these. So to match these, we're going to look at this here. I'm going to list my zeros. So I have 0, 2, and -1. So I have to find the graph that has zeros at 0, 2, and -1. So this one has 0, 2, -1. That one does not. So my zeros right here tell me that graph B goes with number 2. Okay. The next one I have zeros at 0, -3, and -1. Okay. This one is at 0, -1, -2, and -3. We don't have all those there. So like this one, if I match it, works. So that's my C. And then the last one will be A. Okay. Let's go ahead and identify zeros here and determine whether their multiplicity is even or odd. Okay, so my zeros come from my x-intercepts. So I have -2 and 0. And I'm going to look at -2. If the graph bounces there, that means I have an even multiplicity. And then at 0, my graph, it passes through, so it means I have an odd multiplicity. Okay, so just some vocab stuff there. Let's go back to graphing and make sure we're okay with this. Okay, so the steps we had in the very first problem were to first identify your zeros. Okay, so this is a 0, this is a -3, and this is a +3. Okay, so all I'm doing is changing my signs for those. The multiplicities come from the exponents. So for my 0, my exponent was a 2 there. For these, there's nothing there, but when there's nothing there, that means it's actually 1. Don't put 0 there because it's going to mess you up with your graph. Okay, and then add those together. So 2 + 1 + 1 is 4. And then look at your out front. Is this out here positive or negative? In this case, it is positive. It doesn't show us anything. So I'm going to put a positive sign there. Okay, so identify all your information, then start sketching. So I have a 0 here, a 0, and 1 at -3, and 1 at +3. Okay. My leading coefficient is positive, so that tells me my right side is going up. My sum of multiplicities is also positive, or is even, so that means my left side is also going up. So my graph is going to kind of do something like this here. Okay. And then, like I said, I always start on the right side. Not sure why, always have. And my first 0 that I'm going to come to is +3. If this is an odd multiplicity, that means my graph is going to pass through that. And if it's even, it's going to bounce off. So it's going to pass through those two and bounce off of this one. So I'm going to start here. We're going to pass through here. And then to get back to our 0, we're coming back up. And that actually bounces off there. And then goes through my other side. Okay, so there's a really rough sketch. Something along those lines is perfect. Make sure both your arrows are going up on the sides. Make sure you pass through, bounce off, pass through, and you are good. Let's do one more. Actually, why don't you hit pause? You try this one, and then when you're done, hit play and check it. All right, you're back. Go ahead and check your answer here. My zeros are at 0 with a multiplicity of 1, 2 with a multiplicity of 1, and -3 with a multiplicity of 2. So if I add my multiplicities together, I get 4, and out front there we had a negative. So I plotted my x-intercepts. I know both sides need to be going down, and then I also labeled pass or bounce for those. So your final graph should look something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is a rough sketch. If you have any questions, hit pause, let me know, come see me. Don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day.